95% of the people are fully engaged in the mission of the organization. And so the question becomes, is that because they're poor managers or poor leaders? This afternoon, our speaker is going to challenge you in ways you may not be expecting. Captain, U.S. Navy retired Bill Toder, now a senior leader with L3 in the business world, is going to, I think, provoke in you some fresh thinking about the balance of leadership and management. Why this balance is so important in a way that's uniquely his own style. So with that, let me bring up to the front our session speaker, Bill Toder. Bill, thank you so much for coming to be with us today.
I have a clicker.
No, just say
No, I just say next slide. All right, good enough. I want to make sure that this doesn't become a lecture. Okay, I'm looking to you all to participate and ask questions, challenge me if you don't agree with what I'm saying. If I run at you, it's not because I'm attacking. My hearing sucks. All right, after 26 years in the Navy, that's the legacy I was left with. And so I'm probably just trying to hear you. You know, when Joe and Brian put this this whole event together, he has six modules. Is that right?
Right.
And not every one of us is going to tell you the same thing. In fact, we may diverge in what we tell you in certain ways, and that's okay, right? Because we each come at this issue from different perspectives based on different life experiences and different, journeys and paths that we went down. And so we learn things differently, and we take different tacks and approaches in the way we handle these things. So what I tell you today may not align perfectly with what you heard from this morning's speaker or tomorrow's speakers. That's okay. You just take what you're hearing, you try to absorb as much as you can, internalize it, and then turn it into changes in your own behavior as you go forward. When Joe and Brian asked me to do this a few years ago, it was kind of serendipitous in some ways. I had been contemplating the issue of leadership versus management for years, long before I left the Navy, but it was really exacerbated, I think, when I decided I was actually Commodore here, Submarine Squadron 3 in Pearl Harbor, and I said, I'm getting to the point where I think I need to transition to industry before I get too old. And maybe now's the time. I sought out advice from a retired admiral who seemed to have transitioned very well in industry. And I said, I want to be just like that guy, right? I want to learn from him. He did that in the military, was wildly successful in the Navy, and made the transition to industry, and again was in the middle of a great second career. Can you all hear me okay? Do I need the microphone? Okay, good?
Yeah,
all right. Yeah, so he was in the middle of what seemed like a great second career, and he said to me, Admiral, I would really welcome your advice in how I can make this transition successfully, because honestly, sir, this is rather intimidating. I'd already decided I was going to go to Raytheon and take a job in the UAV business as a submariner, right? And I said, I don't know anything about UAVs. This is, kind of a moment for me to really swallow hard. And he said, don't worry about it, Bill. All they want is good leaders. And between the time he said that to me and the time I retired, he was like, oh. And I'm thinking, my goodness, I ended up calling it the great lie. All they want is good leaders. Clearly, he was a great leader. At least he was in the Navy. And that wasn't enough to keep him from getting tossed by this company. And so I asked myself, what the heck happened? Where did he fail? Did he fail? There's a lot of factors that go into when a company decides to let people go. But let me tell you, if somebody is being wildly successful they're generally not like us, right? And so, I did a lot of soul searching about this, and I came up with some ideas, and so that's what I'm going to share with you today. I guess next slide, a little bit on my background, though. I'm an old guy, class of 1979. I was a physics major in undergraduate. When I went to graduate school, I was a double E in spacecraft systems design. Actually worked on the antenna design for the space station back in the late 80s and 90s. But the Navy kept telling me I had to go back to sea, so I couldn't do that for long. And so commanded USS Indianapolis here in Pearl Harbor. I already said Squadron 3. My last active duty tour, I was in charge of all anti-submarine warfare forces on the East Coast of the Navy. Had a great time, except for those 9 years in the Pentagon. 3 tours there, 1 on the Joint Staff in J8, working Admiral Mackey was the J6 at the time, and General Bryan was in J6, and I was the only comms type that was in J8. So basically, I became the J8 requirements guy for all comm systems, which really caused me to feel out of place. Most of what I was dealing with was Air Force, and so did that 3 tours. Actually enjoyed the 9 years. Then in industry, spent 5 years with Raytheon, 5 years with Hewlett Packard Enterprise, DXC. They kept changing what they were while I was there. My last job with them was running all their defense business. And spent 2 years at Cubic as the president of that company. And now I'm president of Maritime Systems, Navy stuff, for L3. So that's kind of the journey I've been through. I keep having to update my resume because I can't keep a job. And so, that's the background. You can determine for yourself whether that's success or not. Next slide, please. But what I want to do is ask you this question. Is it possible for somebody to be successful in any endeavor leading an organization if they're not a good leader? Okay? The obvious knee-jerk reflexive answer is no. How could that be possible? And then I throw some names out. You may or may not agree with my provocative names, right? This guy went to my school. He became president of the United States. How can you say he wasn't a good leader, right? Other names. Bill Gates. Do you think he thought one moment about real leadership as he was forming Microsoft? The company was extremely successful, right? Bill Belichick. Do you think he's a good leader? Patriots fans say, hell yeah. But, you talk to some people who played for him, and they may have a different opinion, right? Steve Jobs, the company that has the largest capitalization on the planet. He started in his garage. Was he a good leader? To answer the question, you have to think really hard about what it means to be a good leader, don't you? But there were definitely some characteristics that each one of these guys, and I should have gals up there too, it's my fault, share. Bobby Knight, right? His name isn't kicked around much anymore. And the guy who started my community, Admiral Rickle, right? You did not want to be around that dude. And, I interviewed with him. I got kicked out of his office twice. I mean, you did not want to be around that dude. Was he a good leader? He created the greatest submarine force on the planet. He created nuclear power. Nuclear power didn't exist before he created it, right? We had atomic bombs, but we didn't have any peaceful uses for nuclear power. He created it so he could build this reactor, so he could go on a submarine, so it would stay underwater way longer than I'd like to. Are these guys good leaders? Next slide, please. Really, this is my opinion as far as the attributes of a good leader, okay? So, whatever organization you belong to, you don't want your people wasting their time and effort, kicking and screaming in the wrong direction, right? the most important thing any leader can do is making sure the organization is heading in the right direction. You know, you can argue about whether that's more important than taking care of people. And I would argue that making sure the organization is heading in the right direction is taking care of people. If you're expending blood, sweat, and tears, and it doesn't matter how good they feel, if they're heading in the wrong direction, they're heading to perdition, right? You can make people feel really, really good about dying. No. As a company, as an organization, it's not about how you're making them feel. It's about making sure that everybody is going in the right direction. And then creating a vision, communicating that direction, getting everybody mentally, psychologically on board. There's this YouTube video you can see, it talks about start with why. And in the video, it is asserted that that's the difference between Apple and all those other PC companies, right? So you go to Samsung and they're going to talk about the microprocessor speed, clock speed, storage, all kinds of technical stuff. They never talk about that in an Apple commercial, do they? Apple commercials, they start with the experience, the human aspect, the user experience, the way, you know, certain things make you feel, whether it's music or other content. You know, the machine is just a window that you're looking through the world in when you're in the Apple architecture or Apple domain. The machine doesn't matter at all. What matters is the window that you're seeing, right? The things you're seeing through that machine. Start with why. The ability to create that vision around the right course, right? Because there are people that are really good at creating a vision but suck really bad at selecting the course, okay? Those are the people who will motivate you off the end of a cliff. And people will go willingly off the end of that cliff, right? It's selecting that course and creating the vision so that everybody is mentally, psychologically on board as you're heading in that direction. That's the alignment scene part. Yes, sir.
When you went to Raytheon and you worked with UAVs that you didn't have experience with, did you feel like you could do these things, articulate a vision, move people on the right course?
So it was a very great question, very formative experience for me. Because like within months of joining, first thing I did was when I went there, I said, okay, I'm learning the lesson from the admiral who told me all they want is leadership. I'm going to go into this new job, this new career, in the civilian world, assuming I know nothing. I'm a second lieutenant again. I'm an ensign again, right? And I started that. I'm going to reboot the computer. I know nothing. And the second lesson I learned was it's a whole lot easier leading people who can actually quit. Okay? So, yeah, I mean, I did. I went there and I said, I'm going to start, learning from the beginning. They wanted to send me to this leadership development course. I commanded a major command in the Navy. Give me a break. Do you think I need a leadership development course? But it was a civilian version of the course that it really did. I learned from it. And so, yeah, don't assume that as you get more senior, and this is one of the themes I'm going to stomp my foot on, don't assume that your past experience is important. There's a great book titled, What Got You Here Won't Get You There. Okay? I recommend one book to everybody I meet. It's that book. The things that made you successful to this point in your career may, but likely won't, make you successful going forward. It's extremely important to reconsider where you are, what your future needs are going to be, challenges are going to be, and reboot the computer, right? And figure out what it's going to take to get you to the next level. Did I answer your question? Okay. All right, sorry. But creating conditions where the team works harmoniously in pursuit of the vision, and it's always best, not absolutely necessary, but always best if they're going in that direction because they want to, not because you ordered them to or because they think their career depends on them following you, right? Because they so bought into the vision that they're leading, right? You don't even need to lead. They're going to lead for you. And again, this is the part where this becomes really hard work, where a lot of leaders fail. Measuring progress towards the vision. You don't just say, set course 290 and then hit the rack, right? Navy speak, right? I don't know how you say that in Army. But anyway, you have to measure progress towards the vision, because it never works the way you thought it would. Never. If it does, you're deluding yourself, right? Maybe you picked the wrong course, and gravity is taking you there, okay? So you've got to measure yourself against this course that you've set for the organization. And that's not easy. It takes a lot of thought. How am I going to do this? How am I going to measure progress? How am I going to know when the rails start coming off? How am I going to know early enough that I can actually, rather than report that it happened, keep it from happening, right? So what are the leading indicators? Yes, sir.
Think about what you're saying here and think about the names put on the slide before. Right. With Paul Allen's recent passing, there was an interesting comment that he had all the ideas and Bill Gates actually put them in, moved them forward. So this slide almost explains some of my understanding of where Bill Gates actually took Microsoft on steering the course, setting a vision, and moving forward.
Are you looking ahead of my slides?
No.
Oh man, I knew Paul Allen, a great guy, and you're exactly right. Bill Gates was the big idea guy, but he couldn't get anything done on his own, right? Paul Allen was the machine that's going to keep the wheels turning. He's doing all the hard stuff down here, measuring progress towards the vision. This is, and of course he did in the background. When I started saying, telling people about Paul Allen, it was about USS Indianapolis cruiser, World War II cruiser. He funded the discovery of them, bottom of Marianas Trench, and I would say, hey, they didn't actually do it this time. Paul Allen's funding. People would say, who's that, right? Nobody knew who he was, billionaire, but nobody knew who he was. He was very happy to be the guy in the background, making sure that everything worked. Gates would have never gotten what he got done without Paul. Great observation. But and again, the point is, when I said, you look ahead of my slides, Gates realized he didn't have those skills, right? And the reason he succeeded and his organization succeeded where others like him didn't is he said, okay, there's a gap in my capability here. I need somebody to fill it. And Paul was that guy, right? And so for each of us, none of us are the complete package. We might want to delude ourselves into believing we are, but every one of us has gaps. The important thing you need to do about yourself, and that's where it comes to this 2-day session here, Leadership Forum, is contemplate, think about what your gaps are and how you're going to get them filled. You don't personally need to do everything. You just need it to get done. And if you don't get it done, you and your organization will fail. It doesn't need to be done by you necessarily, but it needs to be done by somebody. And then as you're moving, as you're doing all of this, you've got this vision. You know what? The vision isn't always 100% right. I picked course 260, but it's really 257 is going to get us there, right? And so you need to be able to make those course corrections as you start doing these things. And the earlier you make those corrections, the better, by the way. And adjust for changing environment, changing landscape, changing technology, changing talent base. You're going to lose people, you're going to gain people. Changing world, changing politics, changing budget. Wouldn't it be great if we could just pick a course and never have to make another adjustment? But that's not the way the world works, right? The winds change. And great leaders need to be able to execute those course corrections as they move forward. Next slide. So, do great leaders have to be inspirational? It makes it easier. Yeah, it makes it easier when you're trying to get them to want to go in a particular direction, but it's not mandatory, right? So they have to be a good communicator.
Yes.
At some level, I would say yes, right? Because they have to get the ideas out of here into somewhere. Does that mean they have to be a good mass communicator? One to many? Communicate to the crew, the great expansive employees? Have there been great leaders who could, if you got them up on a stage in front of 300 people, you couldn't get them to open their mouth, but they were great leaders nonetheless? Yeah, but it doesn't do any good if the great ideas are trapped up here. At some level, they have to be a great communicator, but not necessarily a communicator to everybody. But they have to have somebody who can do that, right? That's the point. They have to be charismatic. One of the worst leaders I've ever known. Wonderfully charismatic. And you want to follow him, and you would have, right? Over the cliff, like I said before. He could charm people, stand up there, and geez, that's a great leader. Except he had no idea where to go. None, right? And it was like, he was all talk. In Texas, they said, all had no cattle. That was that dude, right? Good interpersonal skills? Do they have to have good interpersonal skills? If they don't, they better be really, really self-aware. Otherwise, there's going to be nobody left. Everybody's going to quit, and we'll recover. Not good interpersonal skills. I can tell you firsthand. What was that?
Sorry, Congressman Sestak.
Congress. I have stories about him too, so I won't tell anyone. That's right. Yeah, not good interpersonal skills. But again, if you're self-aware enough to know, my interpersonal skills suck. When I interface with people, they end up quitting. I better put an insulator between me and the people I want to keep, right? You can succeed as a leader by doing that. And there have been very successful leaders who did exactly that. In order to keep people from quitting, I'm not going to interface with them. Okay? Next slide, please. So, that begs the question. We talked about all these great attributes that a good leader either has to have or has to make sure those attributes are filled in by other people. If he or she is self-aware enough that they realize that they don't have some of those skills, right? So let's say the leader either has those skills or has supplanted his or her, capabilities so that the skills are present. We good? You can be successful? And obviously, if I was asking the question, I must have an answer, right? The answer must be no, otherwise it would be really obvious. Next slide. So, General Shinseki used to be Vice Chief of Staff of the Army when I was on the Navy JROC guy. I'd sit next to him, meeting after meeting after meeting. He was a terrific guy. He later became Chief of Staff of the Army, right? And was wildly successful. And then he became Secretary of the Veterans Administration. And what happened? Pick your favorite formerly successful but later fired coach like Joe Gibbs, right? Guy that really, really did well, gets the Super Bowl, gets another job and is fired. How could he have succeeded so wildly if he wasn't a great leader? We used to work for General Powell, right? I was a couple years down from these guys. Obviously, my favorite Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff ever. I would have followed that man anywhere, and he became Secretary of State. What happened? People can argue whether, about Robert E. Lee and Joe MacArthur. Again, maybe a lot of people, don't like his flamboyant nature, his self-centeredness in World War II. But we won the war, and then Korea happened. What was up with that, right? He was fired. Can you say that these people weren't great leaders? I would assert they all were. one position, right? But what got you here won't get you there. And did they properly assess their new environment, the challenges of their job, the different political circumstances they found in? Football, different talent base, right? Different skills, different gaps, different strengths, different weaknesses, different competitive environments, different political environments. And would any one of us have predicted that these people that were so wonderfully successful in one life would have failed in the other? You can't take it for granted. You have to continually reassess. Next slide. How many of you have seen the movie The Darkest Hour? About World War II? Okay. Great movie. Winston Churchill, in the early part of the movie, before he becomes Prime Minister, is wildly excoriated over his role in the disastrous World War I Gallipoli landing. Okay? And in Gallipoli, the story there is that it's an amphibious landing against the Turks, and several nations involved in landing, and it was a disaster. Absolute, utter disaster. And Churchill was, at the time, First Sea Lord, in charge of the Navy, in charge of the landings, and took a lion's share of blame for the disaster. But there's another good book I recommend called Engineers of Victory, about World War II, and about how it wasn't accidental that we won the war, believe it or not. It was, there were certain things that needed to be planned in a certain sequence in order for us to gain the capability to win the war. And in the book, they analyzed the difference between the amphibious landings in Gallipoli and what actually ended up happening later at Normandy, and how they learned from Gallipoli in preparation for Normandy landings. Okay? And this is an important point. Churchill, by all accounts, was a terrific leader, had great vision, knew exactly where Britain needed to go, was a wonderful orator, could articulate that vision. All the attributes I listed on the last page, he had, right? And yet, Gallipoli was like one of the worst disasters in the history of the British Army. How did that happen? It happened because of some attributes that he lacked. And he learned from that, later supplanted himself with people who had those attributes, and was much more successful. But leadership wasn't the problem at Gallipoli. He was exactly right. That's exactly the center of gravity, to use a Clausewitzian term, right? It was, if it would have been pulled off properly, it would have shortened the end of the war. And we would have celebrated the 100th anniversary of the end of World War I a year ago or 2 years ago, instead of this year, right? Next slide. He wasn't. So, can you rise to success in a large organization without being a good leader? And I asked that question before, and I listed those names. So how does that happen? How does that work? Let's assume, for the sake of argument, that Admiral Rickover was not a good leader in the traditional sense of the word. How did he rise to success? Pardon? Results. And how did he get those results? It was a very meticulous Rickoverian style. Inch by inch by inch. And most of those inches were taken out of somebody's flesh. Right? Next slide. He was a fantastic manager. Okay? He kind of knew where this nuclear power thing needed to go. He wasn't very good at articulating it. In fact, he was very condescending. Even when he went to Congress asking for money, people felt like he was putting them down as he was asking for their money, right, to fund his his program, and that's what he would call it, his program. But he was really, really good at this. Okay? Manipulating the process to make and measure progress. Creating process to make and measure progress. This is the management stuff, right? Selecting the right balance of efficiency versus effectiveness. It's really hard to get that right. Doesn't matter what you're doing. Designing a submarine, flying an airplane, training a battalion. It's really hard to get that balance right. Do we want to be more efficient or more effective? More efficient for people in the business world, better margins, more effective. I can be more effective at almost any problem by throwing a bunch of people at it. But if the company goes out of business and no one's employed, how does that help anybody? Okay? Maximizing the impact of the cards you're dealt. Belichick, I don't know that anybody's ever been better at that than that guy, right? You know, it's the old saying, I'll beat you with mine, and then we can trade sides, and then I'll beat you with yours. You know, that's the guy who could do that. And great managers can do that, right? Mastering the devil in the details. Great managers. If you're going to be a good manager, you need to dive deep into the details. You need to validate, verify, trust but verify. Sometimes don't even trust, just verify, depending on the severity. This thing called operational risk management. If bad things happen, they're really, really, really bad. Sometimes you don't trust, you verify. In the submarine world, we have this thing called the Submarine Safety Program. SubSafe, that was created after we lost 2 submarines, right? Don't trust anything. You verify, and then verify again. And so that's not sometimes necessary. Utilizing technology to the maximum effectiveness and getting the math right. Okay? Now, some people are really good at this. You know, we call them born-again accountants. I mean, they love numbers, they love details, they dive way in. Some people call them micromanagers, right? And everybody says, micromanagement, that's a bad thing. Well, sometimes it's a bad thing, but sometimes it's exactly the right thing, depending on what you're trying to achieve and the impact if you fail to achieve it. Okay? Sometimes it's an absolutely necessary thing. Okay? So, there are people who are really good at this. I'm not one of them. And so I better have somebody with me on this journey who is. So you're an engineer, you got to be good at numbers. Yeah, it's a different kind of math. But I recognize that I'm not good at this. And so I'm self-aware enough to make sure I have people around me who are. Next slide, please. So, can you be successful if you're really good at this management thing with that leadership stuff we talked about? Picking the right cores, checking progress against the cores, vision, articulation. Maybe you're not good at that. Can I be successful? And you're starting to get the idea here, right?
I guess maybe I'm struggling with the Belichick or reference. But like if through management skills you can win with either set of cards, then yeah, you could have success. Only being a good manager, you could if you can win every time. You can win every time. That's the argument.
I think you can win if you're only a good manager, as long as you have somebody around you who can help pick the right course, communicate the vision, right? Right? That's the point. I've known people that were just geekiest geeks you can imagine. Again, they were wildly successful in what they did. It's, I'm not really good at this communication thing, but I can measure to the micrometer our progress towards the goal. So, Bob, I need you to do this, stand up and talk, okay? I need you to help me out with that part. Because I tried and I'm just not good. So your choices at that point, you either say, okay, I give up. I'm gonna go retire. Or you find somebody who can supplement your skills again and fill in the gaps. But the point is, you need to understand where you fall on the spectrum. Next slide. So, one of my very first experiences in industry, we had a program, and I'm not going to name the program. Some of you may know, several of you will know more about it than I care to reveal. But the bottom line is this program is a critical warfighting capability, year 2006. We're still in the middle of both wars, and the customer is just screaming to high heaven because we're red on cost and we can't deliver the thing to save our lives, right? We just can't get it pumped out of the factory. And it became immediately apparent, I'm the new guy, right? I'm the guy who's supposed to understand the customer, and so they say, Cody, if you can fix this, you're starting your industry career really well because nobody's been able to fix it so far. So, I realized very quickly that we had a highly motivated workforce. The employees were true patriots. There were people who were doing this. They weren't getting paid a lot of money. They thought that this was their way to contribute to the end of the war. These employees working incredible hours, and that was like epiphany number one. These people are in uniform, and yet they're contributing greatly to the national defense. How can that be, right? And oh, by the way, they're very patriotic, and they love what they're doing, and they think they're saving lives. How are we failing here? And I realized we were failing on numbers. It wasn't the leadership, it wasn't the vision, it wasn't the motivation, it wasn't the gregariousness or the charismatic stuff. It was the numbers. And so, over my best judgment, I said, so who's our best numbers guy we got? And so somebody said, well, I would be Steve. Okay. Well, the programs in California, we're in Texas. How does it help me, Steve? Yeah. So Steve, we need to fix this. What's the best way to do it? Move it to Texas. What? Yeah, so you got union problems, you got this, you got all these problems in California. It'll take us 6 months to move the program to Texas. But I can show you how, once we get the factory up and running, our output will double. And the break-even point is 14 months from now, and cost will go down by a third, and okay, let's do it. And this guy was the least charismatic human being I've ever met in my life, okay? He could put a raccoon to sleep. I mean, it was really, and I said, okay, now how do we do this? So you don't have a lot of layers of leadership in the industry because that costs money, right? So I made this dude who couldn't motivate a Marine the program manager, okay? And I said, God, this is either going to go really, really bad or really good. And it went really good. It was a numbers problem. He was a numbers guy. He knew how to manage to the 9th decimal point, right? And got it done. And within, just like he said, it was almost like he was, a savant. 14 months later, we hit the break-even point, on the move. 6 months after that, we were turning out production, we were blue on cost, and it went just like he did. And again, I kept ringing, the story kept ringing back in my ears. My admiral back in the day, who had advised me when I was getting out of the Navy, all they need is good leaders. This dude was like the worst leader I've ever met. But he knew exactly what needed to be done to fix the program, right? And I had other people who could do leadership stuff around him. And so I tried to hire him twice, but he won't leave Texas. And so, you need people like that, and that's just a great, great story. Next. So, you've got all these leadership attributes on one side, and you've got all these management attributes on the other. What's the right balance? And you say, yeah, you want them all, but you know what? You're never going to have them all, right? So, do you know in your own organization, in your own circumstance, where this balance needs to be? You ought to think about that, right? And you need a little bit of everything. But the point I want to make with you is that different situations require the pendulum to swing to different degrees, okay? And sometimes, you got to reboot the vision. You've been heading down the wrong path. The organization isn't succeeding because you have people kind of working on the wrong projects, or you haven't predicted the future. A lot of people say, you know what, what we really need is to get more agile, okay? That's a common phrase in both government and industry. We need to be more agile. I actually believe agility is almost never the problem. Because agility, by its very nature, is reactive. Something happens, and we need to be agile to react quickly. And that's almost never, because it started with something happening, right? What you really need is something that's more predictive than agile. The old hockey saying, I'm not going to skate to the puck, I'm going to skate to where the puck is going to be, right? That doesn't require agility. That requires a good understanding of the state of play, dynamics, the forces, and where things, and how the future is going to play out. That's way more useful, important than agility. Yeah, agility is good because sometimes you will find yourself behind the puck, and you want to be able to turn quickly. Just it happens, right? That's like a secondary benefit. The first thing is know where to go in the first place. Next slide, please. So, the point I wanted to make is that different situations require a different mixture of attributes, different kinds of reaction. And so, you have to ask yourself where you are on the spectrum of capability. And it may vary from program to program, or issue to issue. Some issues, there's a crisis, we have to act immediately, okay? And it's going to require one kind of response. Other issues are much more deliberate, there's a much longer planning cycle, and it gives you a lot more opportunity to contemplate various outcomes. In campaign planning, operation campaign planning, we call it branches and sequels, right? You play out various courses of action, branches and sequels, what you do, how the enemy reacts, and it's like chess moves, right? Planning several chess moves in advance. And you have time to do that in a deliberate thing like a program, if you're a program manager. Even among ship CEOs, like I used to be, I was deployed, and I had to behave in one way in operational situations. Then we went into the shipyard, same human being, same ship, same crew, completely different circumstance, have to adjust and behave in a different way, right? Much more deliberate. So anyway, there's a lot of opportunities to think about where you fall in the spectrum and figure out how you need to adjust your style according to where. Next. That's about all I have to say. The two final thoughts here, though, because, and again, I added these over the years. The whole point of, what got you here won't get you there. You'd be surprised at how many very senior leaders in both government and industry, haven't recognized situations that require them to behave differently, and then find themselves failing. And after a career of success, sometimes it's even harder for people to believe that, you know what, I've been successful doing this, I'm just gonna be me, right? That's the natural tendency. It's got me here, I'm just gonna play it out. And then they fall flat on their face. So I ask you to keep thinking about this as your career advances, as your situation advances, to keep your organization successful. And the last point I'll make is that, your perspective really changes a lot when you're in industry. You put on a different uniform, and you look at things from the other side of the fence. And some of the worst examples of leadership I've seen were from guys in uniform, gals in uniform, who didn't think that these leadership principles applied to civilians. Some horrendous examples where I've had to have some pretty harsh conversations and in essence fire my customer because they just didn't get that. Just because we're civilians, much of my employees are out of uniform now. Most of them were retired military when these bad events happen. That you can't treat them, badly just because they're not in uniform anymore. And so I appeal to you to think about that as you get folks working for you. I think that's it, right? Last slide. Yeah, that's it. So, any questions? Yes, sir.
Sure, question. If you're going from a job where you're the CEO of a submarine, where you obviously still have department head, you're at a point where you know your crew.
Right.
Probably to the individual, down to the seaman and third class technician, you know your crew. Going up to a level where you're the president of the Maritime System Centers and you have 9 divisions. Do you see many tweaks as you pivot from being more hands-on, you know your folks more directly, to as you start having some of the generals and officers perspective, units of 20,000 or 30,000 where you have multiple divisions, and you're really leading a leadership team in place and leading the organization in that concept. And as you move through those pieces of your career, do you have any thoughts on?
Yeah, so it's really easy to get insulated. And as you get more senior, you get more distracted, right, by what I would call non-neck plate issues, right? Senior management issues, the CEO, the board of directors, the shareholders, you can find yourselves of a lot of demand on your time. And so you have to deliberately go out, you have to put on your calendar, I'm gonna go to this site, I'm gonna go to the cafeteria, and I'm gonna spend an hour in the cafeteria with the employees, sitting down as they're eating their lunch to talk to them. It's the only way you find out what's really going on. And it gets harder and harder the more senior you get. So yeah, when I was CEO of the submarine with 150 people, right? Yeah, you know everybody by name. And on the submarine, we're kind of unique in that regard. Nobody's ever afraid to go up to the captain and tell him stupid, right? Captain, it's the stupidest thing I ever heard you say. People are actually, surprisingly willing to do that in industry, right? If on one hand, there are people who think that, you're just another person like me, and I'm not going to be shy about telling you things. And there are other extremes. People who realize that think that their job is in your hands. Like, it was really hard to fire one of my crew members on a submarine unless there's an ethical problem or something. Really easy to charge people in industry, right? And so that causes some people to really be more reserved around senior leadership. So you really do have to go out of your way to get reconnected with folks. Does that help? But it's extremely important to do that. Otherwise, I guarantee you'll delude yourself about the state of affairs.
And I guess otherwise, it's just keeping the vision and trying to keep the team that you have working directly with you on that vision, on that course.
Yeah, and the truth is that not everybody will see it your way, And you're gonna encounter people who will be passive aggressive, will say the right things, but not change the behavior. And sometimes it takes a while to root those people out. But you do have to root them out because they're destructive. And I'd like to tell you that my own organization is completely clean of it. That's not. I know what's going on, I just haven't acted in some cases yet. But yeah, you've got to get your team on board. There's an expression in industry called the frozen middle, I had not heard that expression my entire time in the Navy, so I assume it's an industry expression. And this is where you've got your leaders convinced, you've got the rank and file employees convinced, but it's those middle managers who think, I've been doing this for 20 years, what the heck are you going to tell me? You've been here in industry for 12 years, you think you're so smart, and then they become the obstacle. And that becomes an issue, is to find those people, and you can't, and to bring them along, right? To convince them, but that start with a why. That usually is the best approach, and it's a hard thing for people. Okay? So,
have you seen either success or failure in people who try to embody both leadership and managerial principles style trainings? You maintain the appropriate vision as a leader if you are in the details?
it can become overwhelming, right? So, I have seen exactly that situation with a person that I used to work for, and it didn't work because, both of those aspects can be very consuming, depending on where your organization is level of maturity. If you have an organization that's working really, really well, and it's really a maintenance kind of activity, where you've got to keep things going in the right direction, you got to keep the motor, the wheels turning, things like that, it's fine. A single person probably can manage both components. But if you've got an organization that's struggling and you need drastic corrections, either in course, in objective, in talent, and that's usually why an organization struggles. There's a requirements to talent mismatch, right? It's really hard to do everything. And see, that's when you have to understand where the demand signal is going to be, where your attention needs to be focused. Sometimes the leader's attention needs to be 100% focused on the leadership stuff I talked about here. Other times, it's really about the numbers, like I said in that program case I talked about. And the leader's attention needs to be focused on getting things moving in the right track, getting the metrics in place, measuring performance against the metrics and things like that. So you really have to do a diagnosis of your current organization situation, decide where you need to be focusing your attention, and then make sure that somebody else is focusing their attention on all the things that you can't. Okay? Anything else? Well, I appreciate my time with you here today. I welcome feedback, and General, I hope it really will.
Once again, yes, of course, Bill. I remember, by the way, this is your, I think you've been shirt, this is like your 5th shirt. And another coin for that in the collection. And thank you so much. I remember Bill Toby. I actually know, just give you a couple of Army guys should never say that we used to play sea story, but this is what they say was this couple of sea stories. I actually used to think, that leadership was actually more important than management. And I was wrong about that. And even years later, I think that instinctively, I didn't know how to verbalize it, but I knew. I felt like I was on that side of the scale that of the leader who has a vision, who can see the course. I was that side of this balance. But somehow instinctively I realized that not only was, I was chemical engineering. I can do micromanagement, I can do math. It was deep. No, I didn't like it though. I like this other side. So instinctively I began to group people around me who were really good at that and who really did enjoy it. And sometimes the most important decision you got to make as you move up, especially at those most senior levels where is picking who the close-knit people who you group around you. A lot of flag officers, for example, will have what they call their studies group. Or they'll have, any of you been selected for any of those kinds of duties yet? Where flag officer has these 4 or 5 officers. Everybody in the organization thinks these are the officers that are on the hot burn. They've been hand selected. Actually, they probably picked them because the flag officer wanted a group of people around him or her that would do the things on the management side that they didn't really want to do if they felt uncomfortable on the other side. On the other hand, I've seen very effective, results-oriented leaders who really were and did enjoy managing. And so they had to very carefully select their deputy, who would be the communications. As when I went to business, this is the second story that I just want to tell you. The first was that I had it wrong. I used to actually think there was a hierarchy, and that leadership was more important than management. Management was just something that had to get things done. But leadership was what really mattered. After all, that's what the Army was preaching to us, right? Leadership, leadership, leadership. Well, they didn't talk much about management. Fact is, when you get up to a certain level, it's the balance, as Bill pointed out, the balance of the two. If you are really smart, you're going to figure out where your strengths are and go with your strengths and make up the difference with the people you group around you to help you do that. When I was, and I want to point out another point, make another point. I was leading a large and important business. I was in an international corporation. I was the largest business group. And I was the president of this group. What they call the president and general manager. Well, I only paid attention to the president because I thought that was the leadership side. And I hired my CFO was really my deputy, and she was a detailed spreadsheet person. And because when I first picked her for that position, I sat down with her and I said, by the way, I just can't spend 6 hours a day behind my desk, nailed down to my spreadsheets. I want to get out and I want to see the people, I want to do the people, I want to interact with them all. And so your job is to spend those 6 to 8 hours a day behind your desk with the spreadsheets. We had a good working relationship. I tell you, we had the largest contract we had. Let's see, anybody here know what an MRAP is? The anti-mine defeating vehicles. We were the ones who fixed those. And this was a huge contract. The fact of the matter is that I saw it as a cliff. The businessman in me saw this cliff coming where the war was going to end at some point in time, or we were going to develop a whole new fleet of vehicles that would have what we learned about MRAPs, the hulls and the welding designs, and all those things we were learning about how to make a mine-resistant vehicle. I'm saying MRAP, and so if there's anyone here that doesn't know what those are those big trucks, ungainly-looking things that you could drive over mines and have them go off IEDs especially and survive. People inside the vehicle can survive as opposed to the Humvees, even the upper armored Humvees, would just come apart. And everybody inside would be horribly mangled and killed. And so this was an important mission. Fixing these things and getting them back on the road was an important mission. But I saw that either the war's going to end and this contract will end, or the military is going to develop a whole new family of vehicles that have been built with these design things in mind, and either way, my contract, very profitable, very high revenue, great margins, made me the hero for the company on Wall Street. I knew that cliff was coming. So I developed a vision of the future and began to invest our resources in getting us ready to replace that inevitable revenue loss that was going to occur in the business. Sounds good, right? I even briefed everybody. I made videos and made sure that 6,500 people worked all had a chance to see either the video online or a live telecast where we teleconferenced, and I would talk about what we were going to do, the vision going forward. We had what people began to call, he's got the $1 billion swagger. We were going to take our $700 million organization and grow it past $1 billion. In fact, in less than 3 years, we went to 1.2 billion. I'm not bragging about that. I'm telling you that we had initial results. I thought I had done the right thing, only to find out that there was one person that I had failed to explain this to and actually get on board. Guess who that was? My boss. That was a problem. I won't go into the painful details of that confrontation, but the fact of the matter is, my boss could see the facts, and he could see the success we were having. But because I didn't help my boss, who was not a visionary, understand this vision and take some ownership of it also, guess who felt threatened by all of this? My boss. Of all the stakeholders that I was concerned about, they were mostly my immediate subordinates and the people who were actually making this happen. Because for them, I was like the godlike figure who could come up with a vision and put the resources in place. And I spent money, and I hired people, and I revamped shops. And we had tremendous success going forward. Wall Street loved the corporation, and the CEO was pissed. How could he be? Well, it's because he was a successful manager who I had failed to address. Even though he could see the facts, he couldn't absorb the vision. He couldn't make it his own. It was really my fault for failing to communicate. So the lesson in this one is, now eventually we worked it out. But the point here is that when you're looking at all the stakeholders that you need to address as this balanced person, leader, manager, two sides of the same coin, sometimes weighted more one way, sometimes the other. The really exceptional leader that we're describing here in the leadership forum is that individual who is adept at striking that balance almost on the fly. Bill was talking about agility. That's the kind of agility that we're seeking for you to find in yourself as an exceptional leader going forward. To be known for the ability to recognize how to shift your skills and intentions with respect to being a great manager and a great leader almost on the fly. Because that's how fast change is occurring around your environment. Now you may think, oh great, so he commanded Navy ships and submarines, and now he's one of the warlords of industry out there with L3. I did some of that same stuff. And so you're sitting there right now thinking, well, what does that have to do with me? I mean, I'm a division chief or a branch chief. What is your job? We never did get to introduce you because you were AWOL. Actually, she was caught in traffic.
I'm so sorry, the director of protocol.
So you have people who work for you. And by design, though, you have a constituency which is defined by the leadership of U.S. Army Pacific, right? So if you were to go out and come up with this great program and your people are all excited about it, and you were just saying, gosh, we're having such great success in protocol, and your bosses didn't agree with that, how successful would that be? Not very. So I just say the point is that where you find yourself, and you're looking at encompass all of the stakeholders, including those that often you forget. I'm not talking about that you don't provide statuses to and everything. You have to get their buy-in at some point in your great ideas. And when you do get their buy-in, guess who now is your best mentor and guide going forward? Unfortunately, you're not always going to have great bosses, and you're going to have to deal with that. But you can be a great boss to your people all the time. And that's what this is. Okay. The paper that's in your, that you're reading in there, I don't know if you've had a chance to read it, have you? No? Okay, no. I want you to take a minute to read that, because the task that we're going to do in small groups to reinforce these issues of management and Bill, did you talk before? Oh, there you go. Okay. It's going to have to do with a really critically important thing at all levels, but especially where you're in a results-oriented organization. Who isn't? How do you know when you've been successful or not? And are there different ways of viewing success as a leader and as a manager? Because it's the same you. It's you the leader, you the manager. And so that's going to be the small group exercise. I think the paper will help you a little in that regard as we break into small groups. Now let's redefine our small groups here, just to have a few more people. Let's see. Okay, this time, David, if you wouldn't mind becoming a threesome with Team 5 here. You go like Catherine or Kathy or Kate. Kate, if you would join these three, you're going to move from Team, what was it, 4 over to Team 3. Okay? Team 2 and Team 1. Okay? And you've got your worksheet there. And it has a simple little sheet in which you're going to answer the question, as a leader, as a manager, I measure success. And then you want to try to differentiate in your small group thinking how you measure success as a leader, what are the things you look for there, and those that you look for as a manager. The whole point of this drill, the outcome, and I'm thinking how I want you to brief this back after you've done it, is how do you strike the balance? Because every situation you find yourself in, you have to consider your role as the exceptional leader, which I define as great leader, great manager. Okay? Does this make sense? This is a bit of a drill, but it's going to have lasting value for you, especially when you take the time to synthesize this for your own leadership style, which is personal leadership philosophy. Okay? All right. It's quarter after, let's see, 13 after? Is that what everybody's got? So we're gonna take about 15 minutes to work through this. And as you do that, if you would, there should be multiple sheets of paper underneath the one you did this morning on session 1. So on the one that you had this morning, write session 1 on it, and then stick that over there and get you up a blank piece of paper. And then at 15:30, we will reconvene for the small group briefbacks. Okay? All right, good. Good time to take a break too if you need one.
Stuff it all on one page. Take some of your own.
Well, I asked him, so it was
Get some stuff over here. Here's your coffee.
General, in the morning, I'm gonna pick up the picture frames for the presentation.
Well, I hadn't seen the certificates.
We have printed them.
Well, I know, but
Yeah, I got the car stop.
the names on them.
Well, glad we didn't print them all. Not yet.
I still don't know where everybody is.
It's kind of amazing that
It's
they would pay
astounding.
that.
I don't know, I think it's worth.
You know what I was gonna say?
Just to get into all the details of registration and all of that.
Didn't we put something at the registration desk last year? I can't remember, but I thought we had like a brochure or something
I don't know, but I think that's a great idea.
after registration. Maybe even a sign as big as that, the one out there.
Well, the idea being that when people show up for registration and their badge comes, they lose it from the registration staff.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Here's your, here's your sheet telling you what time, where to be,
Yeah.
how to park.
Yeah, I was thinking maybe
Instead of the
even,
email, we sent that out as an email,
Yeah.
but maybe we need to do it in writing.
you don't know about, when you come through that back door, you can't see back here. You can't really tell. I was thinking maybe we could put something in the front. Just
There's
a,
a 4-foot sign out there.
yeah, but you have to like walk
You have
in
to
to
walk
see
around the
that,
corner,
you know?
yeah.
If you don't walk in at least a good 4 or 5 steps past that little booth right there, you can't see.
Maybe we need 2 signs.
I think so too.
Yeah. That's a
I'll
good
talk to
one, too.
Cynthia about
So that's 2 good ideas right there. If you need to make note of for the after action.
Okay.
I'm gonna go to the restroom. I'll be right back. Mine off. Mine off. That movie with Leslie.
It's he's on wireless mic. He goes,
I don't want that to happen.
I know. I would never let that happen.
Great scene in the movie.
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
Or they're not that, per se, it's just a different, operational control.
That's also more
Yeah. But they talked about that.
I just got stressed to my back. Can you hear my phone?
Oh, I think it's heavy.
Yeah. This Pelican case right here. Yo, someone says $50. What? For a case, you know.
Made from Pelican? Oh, wow.
I ride a motorcycle.
I used to.
This thing has fallen out of my pocket. I just shook it like nothing. So I have the Samsung 7. And when I got the 8, I had to get a new one, and I was like, no, I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to do it. I'm going to get one of those fancy ones, right? And the more the fancy I got, the more I realized, now, it's worth the $50. It's $750 for a phone these days.
It's crazy.
I'm like, what the fuck, dude?
Crazy.
That is way too much for a phone. If I can get a laptop for $350,
I know, right?
why am I paying $750 for a phone?
Yeah.
And then, if you really get you, because I haven't been late on my bill for AT&T for years. It's auto pay. Don't you know that they slow down the network like a week before your before your payment is due?
They do?
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
yeah. Sprint and AT&T.
Both of them do it.
Yeah. And because of net neutrality, it is legal for them to do that.
Wow.
That is fucked up. I mean,
Yeah, it is.
oh,
You're fired up, aren't you?
well, I'll tell you, it doesn't get pissing me off. I'm not a fan of AT&T, but it would cost me $400 something to get out of the plan I'm in right now. So I'm gonna just walk it out for another 2 years. It was a 3-year plan. They suckered me into it.
No, I don't even know who we're with. My wife handles all the bills. I know I've got an NFL Network though.
That would be awesome if my wife could do that, but she doesn't do a very good job at it. I'll tell you that. Tomorrow I gotta go. Where do I gotta go? Doorstop's gonna be 410 name tags. Oh.
leaders there to bring in a lot back, but at the same time, leaders there to tell them that this is a mission they have to do. Figure it out.
Almost done.
We thought the overall mission was as managers are kind of like they're the experts, they're like the resident managers, the experts of knowing how to implement one's mission.
So far, what you think about it?
Yeah, I didn't like this.
Okay.
Like, I was thinking, morale is like
I know.
Cool, yeah.
and like a manager gets paid
I
less
know.
than
Yeah. When we went around and stuff.
You're being
Oh,
well,
okay.
I'll look for an example. I'll separate
I
it.
missed the whole night, Jen, when I
And
saw
I'll
it.
see my kid.
Oh, and I was like, well, I don't know. It's really good. I was listening to him this morning. That's all.
I was hoping.
Because I'm just having those outreach jobs. They volunteered for that because of the investment.
And then how was the manager?
So this, I'll take my, I was like looking at the words and facts, so
Right,
like,
so,
yeah, like you have a set, like, objective, like, maybe this commission, build this TV effect, well, if you get like 8 to 10, you go right, 7. And the leader just focuses on it. They're like, hey, girl, I think we're pushing on the nation. You know, you get people who are, part of it.
I was in the region, so as soon as you read it, so you're the best. No, like, do you read it so that it's easier just to write it down as a bullet and then send it to you? Yeah. All right, implement the words from
Good places to work for. People know, hey, I love working there. Everybody does. resource allocation, maybe resource allocation.
You want me to write it?
Oh, okay. Oh, you did? Oh, because of the parking? Yeah.
Okay, that one I guess is ours.
Apparently group three has decided to take a little extra time. No, that's okay. Go ahead. Well, so, who was the best manager you ever knew? Oh, either.
That's me, that's Alan. Oh.
Best manager I ever knew was alive. And I had to fire her for that.
What did you lie about?
Money.
Okay. So she was managing what was
He was lying on the spreadsheet. She managed it to the penny, it just wasn't true.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're trying to keep up lies, you have to keep it out. Honestly,
If
you're
you're
trying to
having
hide your tracks all
a,
the
that
time,
line,
and
then
you're
you
not
have to
doing it
manage the
enough.
lie, then you have to manage that lie.
I mean, somebody that has like, you know, several certificates out there, maybe, I mean, you gotta be a good man. You know, not that I have any experience. Sure don't.
No, we're not gonna go
I was
there.
just thinking about it, like, you really have to be able to.
This whole thing of managing is, the first time I heard Bill Cody speak on this subject here, I wrote it in the paper, I quoted it. I don't know if he's even read the paper, he's not quoted. That he's known good managers who failed because they couldn't lead. He knows good leaders who failed because they couldn't manage. He made a special point of that today, I think, about leaders he knew who failed because they could not manage. And of course, that's the dilemma. That's the horns of the dilemma. That's what I prefer to call it, the magnificent paradox. Is that if we, in these modern times, I gotta tell you, my hat's off to all of you. I don't know if I could achieve success in today's economy the way all of you are. The challenges that you have are unlike anything I've ever seen. I know that I worry so much about my adult children who are your ages. And now they're having children of their own and raising their families. I've never seen a time more complicated, more complex, and therefore never seen a time where it was more important to be clear in your own mind what the fundamentally right things are, what the right values are, what the right formulas are as parents and as bosses. I mean, we all want to be great bosses, right? And if you're going to be a great boss, you have to be able to not only be a great leader, but be a great manager. I think that's the whole point of this drill. But how you tell whether you're having success on either side of that can be difficult. In fact, one of the things that Bill Cody just point blank, and I think Jeff Remington even also did on, was don't get entrapped in people who smile at you and tell you they like you. Because they may not be genuine in what they're saying. I'm not quite as hardcore as that. I think that again, it's a matter of balance. But you really have to be careful as you are in leadership positions now. And as you continue to grow in leadership roles and responsibilities, be aware of and sensitive to those who would kiss up to you. Because honest adoration feels good and may deepen. But in my own experience, it's often not genuine. There's a goodness in that somewhere in there. On the other hand, having said that, I think that it's okay to be friendly with people. I know that, I'll just say it this way. If I were to look back over my military career, I would try to count those things that I would say mean the most to me today. It is the success that the people who worked for me have gone on to have. It means more to me than anything I personally it's just more important to me. That, and I guess I'm kind of on this kick because this weekend, on Veterans Day, I was on an airplane flying here. Was anybody else flying here? And so when I landed, my son, who lives in New Orleans, had said something to me that just absolutely yanked my heartstrings. And I wish I could show it to you and share it with you, but the bottom line is when your adult son comes to you and says, in effect, Dad, you were a great soldier and an even better dad. And that really grabbed my mind. And the only reason I bring that up is that I think that is in the right environment, in the right situation, it's okay for the people who work for you to feel that way about you, as long as it's genuine. And it's certainly okay for you to feel that way about you. People would say, I think it was a Civil War general who said, it's good that war is such a terrible thing unless we grow too fond of it. And what he was talking about was he loved his soldiers, but he never hesitated, maybe Ulysses Grant, but he never hesitated to march them into battle knowing that many of them were going to be killed. So I think that this whole responsibility of leadership and relationship between leadership and management, this is an important thing to think about and to consider. And how do you know whether you're successful? Well, that's what this one drills about. How do you know when you've been successful as a leader? How do you know when you've been successful as a manager? What's the difference? And I hope that little sort of manager this, leader that in the paper was helpful to you in that regard. So we shall see how that stacks up. Let's start with group 3.
All right, so we struggled a little more with this one, just like you said, sir. The paper was helpful, but to put it down in words of what it means as a success is where we struggled. And then with that, the flip side of one versus the other, trying to come, two sides of the coin. So we may be off base, but we came up with employee morale or subordinate soldiers' morale versus the money earned or the metrics that the company strives for, or the results. Productivity would also be another way. So a manager would want to see high results, high productivity, versus a leader being more concerned about the individuals or the employees, the human aspect of it. 2, the employee, not the leader, but individual achievements or promotions versus the processes, the effective company processes. So like you said, sir, you were proud when your people under you succeeded. That's kind of what I heard or what I thought of as our number 2 when you said that. So as a commander, I would be happy when my soldiers got promoted, and that would be a metric, I guess you could say. As an OER bullet, I had 6, and COs would be 200 and then with that, the opposite was the effective company processes. And then just the last ditch resort of trying to come up with something, quality versus quantity. I think a good leader wants a good quality product, and I think a good manager wants to have a system in place that produces a large quantity. Those are our 3.
Any feedback from the other groups? Is everybody still with us here? And just keep involved. Let's go to team 5. That was good, thank you.
So we have pretty similar conclusions. We also kind of struggled to actually put in words. But same first one, morale or quality of life versus the quantifiable data that you can measure. The issue of your happiness, but leaders tend to harp on that. Managers want to find quantifiable data for success.
Well, for example, if I may tell something. One of the big issues in the business world is turnover. So if you have a high turnover data, you got real facts and data. As a manager, as a leader, you want to know what's going on here. Do we have, are there leadership policies? Is there a toxic environment somewhere? Is this problem, if I have 6 divisions, is this problem in one of those divisions that's causing the whole department's management, putting on your management hat can really give you insight into those kinds of things. Because the surveys that, the command surveys, the environmental surveys that organizations would be more than happy to charge you a fortune to come into your organization and conduct, they're gonna ask questions of people, and people by and large are going to maybe not be as honest as you would like for them to be, and so 99% of the time, everybody's gonna say, yeah, morale's great. Of course, that one time, or 2 times out of 100, when it comes in and says, this place really sucks. That's really something to pay attention to. But then you have to look inside the surveys and look at the hard data. How many people are behind? They're in debt on their PTO. You know what PTO is? Leave in the military. And people go into debt on leave. Well, that's an unusual thing. There has to be some facts behind that. Sickness. But what if they're just, calling in sick and taking days off sporadically, and it's happening more often in one part of the organization than another? I guarantee you've got a leadership problem somewhere in the organization. These are people ducking work. They don't want to come to work. And they're using the system to their maximum ability to shave a few minutes off the beginning of the days they do come to work, and shave a few minutes off the end of the day to leave. There are all kinds of ways of having data, quantifiable data, if you're willing to look for it and pay attention to it. And a good leader will lead it, and not just assume, well, everybody's smiling, at least to me, everything must be great. And that's why it may not be. You don't want to mislead yourself. Go ahead.
Next, we said that leaders look for potential growth as a measure of success versus never look at the current output, so look for the horizon and the current state. Next, leader might judge success by not needing to manage, basically not needing to handle, not needing to micromanage, just being able to set a vision and see it be follow through it, versus a manager judges success when the machine is running optimally.
I'll tell you what I always did as a leader, as I shared with you, I'm not by nature a micromanager. I'm strong on, if you will, the people side of leadership than I am on the management side of details like that. And I know that about myself. But as a leader, as you move up, you're going to get busier and busier and busier. Your responsibilities are going to get broader and deeper, and you're going to find that your most precious resource is time to think. So what you have to develop and very clearly communicate, what are the management indicators that you want to see, if you will, your own dashboard, put it in computer terms. What are the management indicators that you need? For example, in looking at financial spreadsheets, I did a monthly detailed spreadsheet analysis with my CFO, just her and me, going over line by line, column by column, and making sure I understood all of that. But on a daily basis, I got 3 reports. One was balance sheet, one was profit and loss, and one was, the third was cash flow. So I knew, and cash flow was especially important. For those who may not know what that is, cash is king in a business. I don't care whether you're selling services, butts and seats, or whether you're selling products, whether you're selling products on Walmart shelves, or whether you're selling products to the government. Cash flow analysis is key. And for me, I was a services organization and I had subcontractors. And a lot of those subcontractors were small veteran-owned and service-disabled veteran-owned businesses. And I made a commitment to them, because, and by the way, those companies by and large had great penetration into the customers. If you go to a place like Fort Bragg, anybody ever been to Fort Bragg? I spent 16 years at Fort Bragg. All of my commands in the Army, from platoon through brigade, were at Fort Bragg in special operations units. And I can tell you that's a culture. And if you want to penetrate that culture with your business, I don't care how big you are, you're going to have to penetrate it with small businesses in the area who are still members of that environment, of that culture. You know, the retired master sergeants who have started the company and are providing a set of very specialized services to, say, the Joint Special Operations Command. Well, if you're not from that community, you're not even going to get a return to a phone call, much less an appointment. So you have to go down and seek out these men and women who are culturally still in that environment, even though they retired and started their own businesses. Well, those were a lot of the subcontractors I had. That was how we were. And I told you we had this amazing, successful run for about 2.5 years of running the business. A lot of that was due to having really strong relationships with small business owners who had market penetration. So my commitment to them, though, to get them to say, why you, why not someone else, was I made a commitment to them that I would never let their invoice go unpaid. And because I made that commitment to them, we did it. We paid it. Even though sometimes we hadn't been paid. So this caused us to have a degree of withhold, if you will. And so when my withhold would get up to about, I don't know, $5 to $10 million a month. Now this is essentially, I'm paying my subs and I haven't yet been paid as the prime by the government. So I'm carrying this, if you will, shortfall, and it was reflected not in my bookings or in my balance sheet. It was the cash flow analysis. If you don't think my boss didn't call me about that, even when he agreed, he understood. Yeah, I got it, Dave. I got it. All right. I know you're gonna. I know we're good for it. Blah blah blah. It bothered him. It's the same guy that never got the division. He had to just go on faith because he couldn't quite understand why I was paying my subs. Because I guarantee you 90% of companies out there today don't pay their subs until they get paid. And these small businesses, it's very difficult to survive when you've got people on payroll and you're counting on getting paid on time so that you can make, people get paid every 2 weeks, right? 26 times a year, not 24 times. 26 times a year, every 2 weeks, people get paid. Right there? Yeah.
Right.
And so if somebody suddenly says, by the way, we haven't been paid yet, so you're not getting paid until we get paid, how does that make you feel? There. I'm role playing with you now. How does that make you feel if your boss says to you, we're not going to pay you because we haven't been paid yet?
I mean, I feel like financially concerned and devalued for my efforts.
Yeah. And in fact, they don't have your back. They're not valuing you at all for the fact that they wouldn't have that revenue if it weren't for you being billable on site with a customer. And now I'm not gonna get paid until you get paid? How do I explain that to my bank who's holding the mortgage on my house or on my car? This is you were making a point. Now I feel like I'm preaching or something. Fact is, there are human beings at the end of all of this management stuff. And that's where leadership comes in. You know, the quote for this session is so true. You manage things. Money is a thing. Time is a thing. You lead people in all their diversity and all their changing moods and needs and on and on and on. To me, it's a wonderful diversity. But sometimes it can really be annoying. But you can't just manage a problem when it's fundamentally a human dilemma. You can't just lead your way out of a problem if it's fundamentally a management issue. You got to be adept and agile enough to recognize and deal with it in real time. But anyway, so yeah, where were we out there? Machine, right? Was running that.
So last two, leader is concerned with people understanding their vision and buy-in, versus a manager is concerned with the correct utilization of resources and personnel.
How hard do you think it is to get someone to buy in? Oh, why? Well, you know what this Brian's thing. You're entitled to your own, of course, as always, in the leadership thing. But Brian's explanation is, if I don't ask you, let's say, Roddy, I'm your boss, and I come up with a whole new strategic plan and vision going forward for the protocol function at U.S. Army Pacific, and I never ask you for your input. I just pronounce it so. How does that make you feel? Are you going to buy in automatically? You may tell me you do.
You don't know me very well.
Okay, you're not going to tell me you do if you don't.
No, I would probably respectfully say that's not a good idea.
Yeah.
Here's why.
You would object.
If it's a bad idea.
Yeah.
That's how I am.
Yeah. Hey, guess what? Most good people who care about what they do feel that way. So buy-in is so important. If you try to dictatorially determine this is what we're going to do and you're going to love it, you know the old thing in the military about the beatings will continue until morale improves. Well, not only is that wrong and stupid, it's disastrous for the organization. If you want, as a leader, to have a vision, pull people forward, you got, and we have a whole session on vision and strategy. Achieving buy-in by all the stakeholders involved is really important and not easy. And the worst thing to do is to have somebody out there who says, oh, nobody asked me. I have an opinion about this. Go ahead. You're doing great.
Finally, leader is concerned more about the end result, not the process, and the manager is concerned mainly about the process.
Yeah.
Regardless of the mouth or the
Yeah. Thank you, Doctor. That's great. You really got me going. I don't know about the rest of you, but I feel better. All right, who wants to go next? Okay.
I did a real good job of summarizing our own points as well. For the first one, like this team over here, team 3, we looked at morale, and a leader's success will look at climate, culture. It's kind of subjective form of success, but then a manager will look at something quantifiable like awards and incentives that they give to their people to try to foster that morale. That may not be the right incentive, but managers try.
You know what the most important thing, and Cindy Moran will talk about this in a moment, you know what the most powerful thing you can do for somebody? You can't give them a cash bonus like I can in my business. and even though I do that with my employees and they always appreciate it, that's not their number one most important motivational factor. You know what it is? Recognition. Personal, handwritten note from you to someone saying, I noticed this project they've done, and I know how hard you worked on it, and the results were outstanding. And I want you to really, not only I recognize it, I appreciate it very much. You've made a difference. And another great thing that you can say to somebody is, and I bet you do this sometimes. Yeah, you've got that personality. If somebody says, yeah. So let's say that I say, well, this is what I want to do, blah, blah, blah. You're going to tell me, yeah, but how about this instead? Am I right? Yeah. I'm
Just like
I'm
she
gonna
said.
pull my chair.
pushing back.
I'm gonna pull my chair.
I'm the one-upper, huh?
And
Is that what you're
not
saying?
only that, the fact that in the front of your colleagues and peers, and I'm your boss, and I say, you know, Andre, you're right. That's a great idea. We're gonna do that. That's not the manager saying that. That's the leader saying that, right? How's that make you feel when the boss does it? Great. Highly valued. And sets an example of other people who maybe have been maybe intimidated or maybe just set their button sets automatically on mute. And they just go to meetings and they don't participate. I guarantee you, and I bet you all are already at that point in your careers where when you go to a meeting, you already know the 2 or 3 people in there that you're going to go to with all the questions because they're the ones that are going to challenge you. Now, who wants to go to a meeting where everybody agrees with the boss? There's no point in having the meeting. The boss is just going to say, listen here. I just, you know what? I don't want you to argue with me. Just go do it. Well, crap. I just devalued him in front of everybody. What terrible. I mean, that's the exact opposite measurement, right? There are all kinds of ways of showing people how you value them. And leaders, people, are most motivated when they feel most valued by their leader. Recognition in a personal way, publicly. Now, what if I want to have a critical discussion with you as part of it? Because I don't think your behavior is meeting the standard. How is that done? Private. Never publicly. Yeah. Public ask you, well, crap. You know what? That's a terrible vision. Just private. It's a terrible leadership style. Because nobody in the room, everybody feels like they just got horse whipped. Nobody in the room is ever going to trust you again. You have just violated their trust by publicly humiliating someone or publicly punishing someone verbally. Yeah.
What if they disrespect you in public? And
They
you have to make
being
sure that you're,
subordinates?
what would you do in that case?
Well, you know, it depends on the situation. How public is it? If it's a room, you can clear the room.
So make it.
Or you
but
can
still
say,
go in private,
you can say, thank you, Andre.
yeah.
Could I have a minute
Yeah,
in the hall with you?
'Cause you
Now,
don't
everybody in the
want
room's
to
going,
arrest them.
yes, it's finally going. Because you know what? Everybody in there already knew it. They knew you were out of line. You know. So you can't let that get away with that. But you still don't step down off the curb into the gutter and publicly humiliate. You certainly don't want to ever lose your temper. Self-control is something which is disappearing in our culture. I was raised in Alabama, Southern born and Southern raised. My mother would not tolerate disrespectful behavior in our house. It wasn't my father. It was my mother. And she was a little bit, but she could get her knuckle, stick right there in my shoulder, and press it real hard, and she said, I'm so embarrassed. Well, she would say when I was going out, she would say, just don't do anything to embarrass me. Well, she meant was embarrassing, but boy, that's control. That's what every mom, that's how moms control themselves. Hey, you guys are doing a great job of getting me off the subject. Who's next?
We only did one of our.
Go ahead.
But if it was so good that we could move on. So a leader sometimes finds success in favorable feedback and surveys from subordinates, whereas managers will find good feedback from their superiors, meeting deadlines, meeting their wishes as success. A leader.
Don't you love quad charts? The quad charts in my view are a great management tool. For me as a leader, when I was the J6 CIO at Paycom. And I had so much going on that when I had staff meetings, I had to operate off quad charts by exception. And that was my management tool, if you will. But yeah, you gotta know. You can't go around not knowing. And,
I'm in Paycom J6 and we're still using quad charts.
Thank you very much.
We probably left the legacy.
Okay.
There. But a leader also creates leaders. That's a measure of success. Whereas a manager, having their own people be good at their job, they're not creating leaders. They're essentially creating more managers. Just be good at your job.
Mm-hmm.
A leader will have people quote get on board. If they're effectively communicating their vision, they'll look around and see that they're on board with what their vision is. Whereas a manager will use metrics to kind of see like, hey, are we all achieving this mission? You know, this vision chunked out into missions. I have these metrics that we're meeting to achieve that mission. And then what goes along with Team 5 about a leader will have resource allocation, organize, train, equip, whereas the managers will have resource stewardship. Are they below budget? Are they meeting cash flow, return on investment, and other metrics? So just a different way to.
That's really insightful. So we have a good to have a reach. Yeah.
We're going to take a little slightly different approach, look more holistic, like I said, it's going through the West. The leader, looking at set outside goals, really set the harmonious conditions. We stole some language from some of the other groups. And look overall at the strategic vision and maintaining the leader's overall values. With the manager, we're more focused on measuring the progress toward that goal, establishing efficient or effective, depending on what you're actually measuring at the time. Looking at the operational structure, how things are really put together to be able to meet that vision. And then adhering more to the policy as opposed to maintaining values. And I actually thought of David's example from this morning a little bit on that as well. Hey, where do we actually look at what these values don't align with policy, and then where does that manager leader piece start coming in conflict? So realistically, setting the conditions, looking at the vision, looking out forward, and then putting in the processes and the policy and that kind of structure to be able to then achieve some of that vision.
Oh, that's textbook stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Good.
Joe came up with it.
Joe, good. Great leaders always get credit to somebody else. You know, it's amazing what you can get done. Harry Truman said that. Right? It's amazing what you can get done. You don't care who gets the credit. That's well done. Thanks. So, yes, ma'am.
So we didn't get a chance to brief. And we just had such great discussion, that we.
Well, you were still writing on the wall.
Well, see, I know, so, I mean, we did have such great discussion, we didn't come up with a whole lot of things, but, I would be remiss if you continued, the class without us being able to re-say a few things, of what we did come up with. As
I
far
was
as,
about to say, how about group three?
I mean, how about it?
How about
How
group
about
three?
it? Let's go. So, like other groups, we distinguish between leaders and managers, and one of the top things for a leader was the morale within the section and within the directorate. And one of my favorite leaders in the Army, one of his quotes to me growing up in the Army was, if you invest in your people, they will invest in you. So if you can continue to invest in your people, you'll always see a return back on that investment, and you'll see it in morale. Whereas a manager will set up the structure, will set up the processes, the procedures to help with that morale. So if it's setting up an award system or setting up any other sort of process that will help develop those personnel, that's what the manager will do, or the leader will inspire and invest and make sure that they're being sent to classes or whatever the case is. Definitely need to. The leader will also create the work structure and or the environment, whereas the manager will develop that work structure within the directorate. And I am old and cannot read the third bullet because I'm across the room.
The only thing I can disagree with you on so far is that you are not old.
Oh.
I'm.
Well, I'm old enough
You're
that
not.
presbyopia sets in, hardening of the lens, and I cannot really read that very well. So, younger. Okay, sets direction, sets the course. In other words, the vision of the. Thank you.
Measures, course,
Thank you.
Perfect vision. No perfect
Because he's younger, I would assume. All right. Oh, well, Lacey.
That's really great. Congratulations to all of you. I think we've made the point of this session and why it's so important is because this is not a course about management. We're not trying to teach you management techniques. You're all taught that every day on the job, or every school you go to, every regulation, every process, every policy has a set of details and processes that you have to follow. You know all of that. But what gets lost in a lot of this is the leadership that goes into really being the juice that makes the organization achieve much more than we ever thought possible. And that's why we have this session of balancing leadership and management. Both essential. And the last thing I want to say about this is tell a quick war story, and then we'll break for the day. When I was a brigade commander of an airborne unit at Fort Bragg. And are you airborne qualified?
No, sir.
Well, so oh, you're not airborne. So are you airborne qualified? Airborne qualified? What's that? I can see your aerosol. All right. So the point of the story is that you guys are familiar with these kinds of details, but to do an airborne operation training takes tremendous planning and detail. There are absolute checklist things that you have to do every time in order to ensure you're going to have a safe and successful training mission. The mission that we trained to quite often was that we would, the Rangers would jump in and seize an airfield, and we would jump in right behind them and relieve them of the security responsibilities of the airfield so that they could move out into the terminal areas and basically extend the security perimeter for that operation. And then we would set up like pathfinders, the communication systems and beacons and things that allowed the Air Force C-130s to come in, which would bring in our airborne command post, what we call the TAC-CP, the Tactical Command Post stuff that was all mounted on Humvees that were driven up in C-130s, and these guys would come in flying. So everything was done on the goggles at night. You could probably hear the noise of airplanes flying over and paratroopers coming out, and then you could hear the planes landing, but you couldn't see anything. Except sometimes the static coming off the props of the C-130s. And this would be, this training exercise would start early in the morning with the pre-jump briefings and the pre-jump training all the way up until nighttime, and then the actual couple of hours in the air flying the map of the earth. I think the map of the earth was created by the Air Force to punish the Army. You know what map of the earth is? They fly at treetop level and hop over everything, and you're sitting in the back of the plane like that. Anyway, it's midnight. We had this tremendous training exercise. We're at an admin hall now. And we're actually having, waiting on the buses to be brought out. The whole exercise has been a complete success, no injuries, everything done exactly. We were actually rehearsing the real mission set, and it was midnight, and it was a full moon, and it was warm, and there was a soft breeze, and everybody's in formation for accountability purposes, and Sergeant Major, my command sergeant, was the best non-commissioned officer ever knew. Down out in front of the paratroopers that were involved in the training that night, about 300 of them, and I'll never forget what he said. He said, you know, they actually pay us to do this. It was because of great management of all the details that made that exercise go flawlessly and achieve all the training objectives and do it safely and securely. But it was that leader's statement at the end of it all that the senior non-commissioned officer of the brigade said. And how do you think the troops reacted? Cheering. If we had said, go get back on the planes, we're going to go kill the enemy, they would have all fixed bayonets and got on the plane. That's leadership. Management on one side, leadership on the other. Striking the right balance at the right moment is what allows exceptional leaders to have exceptional organizations. Okay? All right, tomorrow morning we have an early start, 7:30 at breakfast over in where lunch was served, right, Sarah?
Yes, top of ballroom, 7:30.
Now, Sarah, you had an announcement you wanted
yes.
to make also about.
Well, in terms of parking, the sponsor Perspecta is sponsoring parking. So they're located in Seacrow Suites, which is where the registration desk is, up that small escalator to the left. But it's not it's an option for getting your parking covered. There's a sticker on your parking ticket, and I think you don't need to run it through any validation machine. But this happens to be this company sponsoring parking and Wi-Fi this year.
Can I add to that? They're also augmenting valet parking if you don't feel like putting in the garage. So I think the valet parking ends up being like $13 for the day. So if you don't want to fight the garage and do the 8 laps, like I think some of us do, they will also have stands for your back for the valet. So it's the same company, you go to that same spot and they'll stick that.
But they're also letting you, if you want to pay, I think $10 for their day, you can self-park, but you can park in the valet spots. Because it's so that's what I'm going to say. Yeah.
Guaranteed parking was an issue this morning then, huh?
Yeah.
So, I don't know what happened, the traffic was worse than usual, and the parking was worse than usual.
So they're gonna get started in here about 9:30?
This morning, and we're still trying to knock down some of the people who signed up and aren't here.
Or I just come breakfast.
Ooh,
The fact is, though,
I like your
we don't
style.
mind them get them in here.
Where's it at?
You happen to be friends with the general.
Where's it at?
Maybe tomorrow,
Across the way.
because they're not gonna
Across the
work
top.
as they will miss too much, or they won't be able to do their
Sounds like a
duties.
great plan. Get here early so I get a parking spot.
I know.
Have some breakfast.
So, okay, all right, we run a little over here, but we started a little late this morning, and I'll see you all, be safe, secure. There are some parties going on here in the area tonight, but I know most of you probably want to get home.
Right now, there's a reception going on in the exhibit floor.
Oh, okay.
So there's gonna be like food stations.
We'll see you at breakfast
Check it out
at
on your way out.
7:30, and then we start here at 9:30, right?
Tomorrow, after breakfast, 9:30.
Good.
Thank you.
Keep the binders. Read ahead if you want.
Thank you.
No, you good?
What'd you say?
I said you're good.
I had a hard time. I had this one for a while, but I'm thinking you can